Hello, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Lunch and Learn Live. I am going to put this in the South Bay Wellness private community. So those of you who are out there watching, give a shout out, say hello, and good morning. I'm so glad to see everybody here today. Let me open up the chat box. I think we've got the share going, and we're good to go on my end. But happy Monday, everyone. We missed you all last week, and Carissa's flight was delayed. I'm pretty sure that she arrived back into JFK this morning somewhere around 5 a.m. after we had a week last week of very little sleep. So it's just me today, but I'm happy to be here with all of you. So much to talk about. We had an amazing week last week. So as you guys know, Carissa and I are always emphasizing the importance of meditation. How many of you meditate on a regular basis? Type in the chat box if you meditate, in the chat there. Yeah, if you meditate on a regular basis and what it is that you do and how long do you meditate for. So I try to frequently, meditate. It's a part of my regular morning routine. And, Carissa and I are always talking about how beneficial and important meditation was. And so we really dove into the world of meditation this week, along with Dr. Joe Dispenza. And not only did we get to experience profound meditation, a lot of times when I'm admit that a lot of times when I do my meditation in the morning, sometimes it's like, oh, you know what? I don't have that much time, but I'm going to get my 10 minutes in. And 10 minutes is fine. If that's where you start, if you start with 10 minutes, it's perfectly fine. But the more you can devote that time to getting yourself in that calm, peaceful, grounded state, the more benefit you actually receive from that meditation. So you want to put it on the high of the priority list. And I think that's something I'm coming back from the week with, on my own, is this is something that needs to be just a little bit higher than where it is on my current priority list. But, we had some really, profound experiences ourselves, but really diving into the research and the data and what it looks like, to be able to meditate, bring your body into a coherent state, and how that actually impacts your health for the long term. Now, is anybody if you're watching in the chat box, are you familiar with Joe Dispenza's work? I know Carissa and I often recommend his books, the Superhuman, or what is it? Changing the Habit of Being Yourself. And so profound books that talk a little bit more about some of the science and the research and stuff that he's discovered. But it's mind-boggling when you start to think about the power of your mind, right? We all know about emotions and how emotions are very tied into our health. We know how emotional traumas can become trapped in the body and impact our health. But this is really, fascinating to look that they have literally done the research in their seminars, done blood work and stool samples and microbiome test and language testing the words that people speak, and heart rate variability, so measuring what's happening with people's breath and their heart rate. And they found remarkable correlations to enhancing cognitive ability, releasing chemicals in the body that have us be calm, relaxed, almost like natural anesthetic. It's probably why so many people are able to, when they're able to reach those higher meditative states, they're able to, reduce their pain, which is amazing. But just then what that overall impact is on our life outside, because how many times a day do we stop to really tune in with ourselves and connect with ourselves and be present to the silence, right? To be present to nothing. Whereas most of the day our minds are on overdrive, and we've been conditioned to have our minds on overdrive. Think about, the control, how controlled we are. The phone goes ding, and what do? You go and you run and you reach for your phone. So we in our lives are so conditioned by all of these automatic responses. If you think about even the act of just scrolling on your phone, we know that that increases, dopamine levels. So it's like that scroll is like a reward to your brain. But that scroll is also very hypnotic, which leaves us open to suggestion, kind of like TV commercials, right? You ever sit down and watch TV, you become like in this trance when you watch TV. And that's why commercials are so powerful, because they enter our mind when we're in this state of trance. And then you can have commercials that are outrageous, right? Like, for example, I know Dr. Joe uses the examples of the shingles vaccine. So if you've ever read his book, he uses this example in his book where he talks about how, you're in your trance state while you're watching TV, and up comes this shingles vaccine commercial, and you see somebody who is really happy and enjoying life, and then all of a sudden they come down with the shingles, right? And now the TV screen is showing you these pictures of someone with this most disgusting, gruesome, shingles case ever. And by the way, most cases of shingles do not look like what they show you on TV. And so now you're in this trance state, but now you're in this heightened emotional state of fear, right? And now they bring in the information about the vaccine. But the funny thing is that they tell you that the vaccine is going to improve your immune system. It's going to make shingles better and all of that. And then when they get to the end, they're like, do not take this if you have a weakened immune system. So the advertisement itself directly contradicts itself. But when we're in that trance state, we don't even recognize that that contradiction, because we're so in that state where our mind just absorbs whatever it is that they're talking about. So as we're scrolling through social media, we're in that trance state. How many of you have made, evening social media posts and you're scrolling before you go to bed? I know I've done it, right? Type in the chat box, have you done that? Is it just me? I can't imagine that I'm the only one. Otherwise, Facebook wouldn't do so well with their advertising. So type in the chat box, and those of you, I know there's a bunch of you out there watching, so say hello. Let me know who you are and how you're doing. And I asked the question before of how many of you are meditating on a regular basis. Hello, Miss Emily. Good to see you. Have you made any evening social media scrolling purchases? That's kind of what we're talking about. But imagine being able to bring yourself into that trance state. And instead of being, I'm going to call it manipulated, because it's manipulation, right? Instead of being manipulated by ads or TV commercials or things like that, being able to decide, what is the future of your life going to look like? What is the future of your health going to look like? Now that is incredibly powerful. I have had clients who said to me, oh, I've got, this terrible pain in my body. And we've done all the things that we do on our end. And they're like, well, but this pain still keeps popping up. And my response is often, well, what is that pain? Why is that pain there? What does that pain want you to know? What does that pain want you to understand? Going back to the whole premise that our bodies, right, they can trap emotions, or emotions get stuck in a specific place. And it's important for us to dive in and really connect with their body, connect with the pain, and identify why it's there. So that's one of the very powerful things when it comes to meditation. Emily, doing a lot of Facebook back to school shopping. I gotcha. Good. How about the rest of you who are watching? Number one question was, how often do you meditate, and for how long do you meditate? And then number two, we were just talking about the trance state that the scrolling through social media initiates for us. I'll tell you that I have been making a very conscious effort to not touch social media at all. Now, of course, for South Bay Wellness, we have a team that I have that does an excellent job of working with our social media, but I still need to go in there and check and make sure that things are happening the way they're supposed to. And so I do go in from time to time because I have to. However, any other social media channels, any other social media engagement, I've really shut that down now to make sure that that's not happening, because it is a distraction. It does mess with us, and quite frankly, a lot of what's on there is not always good stuff. So imagine you're in this trance state as you're scrolling through social media, and all this negativity is coming in, all this negativity. Back when COVID happened, one of the first things that I had told our clients was be really careful about what it is that you take in, right? Because what was happening during COVID time was this massive amounts of fear just spreading, okay? And fear is enough to make us sick. I'll say that again. Fear can be enough to make us sick. Well, and you're like, well, Dr. Z, why is that? Well, if we actually get down to the biology of it, if you think about what happens, it ignites that survival response in our body. So now we're pumping out, we're pumping out cortisol, we're pumping out adrenal hormones, and adrenal hormones have a purpose, right? We have those hormones because way back when, if we needed to run from the tiger, we wanted those hormones to pump to give us the energy that we need to raise our heartbeat, to move the blood, away from the digestive system, away from the core of the body, out to the extremities, so that we could run real fast and get away from the tiger. But we would run away from the tiger and then would be done. And the body would come back to a homeostasis. But what's happening now is the body is ending up in this fight or flight state and maintaining that fight or flight state. So if you think about, the way that the proteins are created in your body, right? When we're in that fight or flight state, that information that's coming in to create those proteins isn't where it should be. And so now, instead of having the proper stuff actually created, we have stuff coming out with, misinformation. And that misinformation then impacts the body. And over time, if we're constantly living in this state of stress, we end up with illness, right? And this is where the power of taking the time to slow down, to breathe, to bring your body into that very calm state. That's where we shift and alter those pieces of our health. I know many of our clients are, they're busy people. How many of you are busy? Type busy into the live chat if you know that you're a busy person. Type busy into the live chat. Hi, Miss Carla. Good to see you too, love. So Carla, are you meditating on a regular basis? Emily, are you meditating on a regular basis? The rest of you who are watching, go ahead and type it into the chat box. I want to know, because this is such an important part of what we need to be doing as a community. Carissa and I were talking this week. We're probably going to have some open, group meditation hours that we'll probably do together coming up, and we'll open that. I know many of you are clients. I know some of you in our group are not clients, but we'll open that up for everybody because it is so powerful. Awesome, Carla, working on the breathing. Just those simple acts of taking deep breaths can bring the body back into that calm state. I'll tell you, I'll often tell people, so you guys know mindful eating is really, really important. And we don't do it very often. I catch myself not mindfully eating a lot of times because we're always like, okay, I got 20 minutes. I got to prepare the food, eat the food, and then move on to the next client, right? And it leaves us not present when we're actually engaged in eating. I've actually made it a point, like I don't do that anymore. I will take my food, I will sit down at the kitchen table, and I will eat at the kitchen table versus eating in front of my computer, right? Which was becoming a default for me personally, just because there was so much going on. And I want to make sure that you guys are all well taken care of. But what happens when we actually take those deep breaths, Carla, like you're talking about, then we can actually bring that nervous system down. And that then does what? So remember, I just talked about those stress hormones. Those stress hormones bring, all that digestive juice away. Your digestion slows down so that your body can run or fight, right? It's not time to rest and digest. So when we take those deep breaths, so it's a sign to the body that, okay, it can rest, right? It can digest. So one of the most powerful things that we can do before we eat, right, is take those deep breaths and bring our bodies back into that calm state. Those of you who have been with me for a while, you probably know Dr. Z's ABCDs of mindful eating. If anybody remembers what they are, go ahead and put them in the chat box there. But A was to pay attention to your food, right? Get present. We've got to get present if we're actually going to create change, right? So A was pay attention. B was breathe. Breathe, just like what it is that you're doing, Carla. So that breath brings so much power. And I'll tell you guys, C and D, it's off topic, but C is chew, 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 right? And D is delay. So delay before your next bite. So just that active breathing can take us down. And I always tell our clients, go ahead and, before you set that breathing up with something, right? Make it create a habit. Like you brush your teeth every day, then make sure maybe before you brush your teeth, you're taking several deep breaths. After you brush your teeth, you take several deep breaths. When I used to drive a lot more, the biggest place I used to make sure that I focused on my deep breaths was at traffic lights. So the traffic light was my automatic reminder. Red light, deep breaths. Red light, deep breaths. So type in the chat box, where can you connect your breathing to? Where can you connect your breathing to in your daily life so that it's almost seamless? So that you are consistently during the course of the day bringing down your nervous system. Beautiful, Donna, doing an hour a day of visualizations, even though you're really busy. Perfect. And I'll bet, Donna, that makes a profound difference in your life, right? Because it brings you grounded. It brings you to that place where you're connecting with yourself. You're bringing yourself into more power and control versus being, run over by a steamroller from everything else that's going on in life. So that is an awesome thing to do, Donna. Yeah, totally, is what Donna says. So yeah, you guys, that is super powerful. If you can get that in, if you can connect that, if that's the one thing that you take away from today's Lunch and Learn, then do that. Connect with that, because that is really profound. Okay, really, really profound. And, I have clients who will say, oh, I don't have any stress. I'm not stressed. And yet I'll listen to them speak about their lives and the things that they're doing, the way things are going, and this, that, and the other. And a little light bulb goes off and says, that's interesting. Now, they may not actually experience stress, but I invite you to take a look at where you might have, some blinders or some sunglasses on, where maybe you are maintaining that higher level of stress, but you're so engaged in that stress level that you've never even recognized, like, oh my gosh, I'm at a pretty high stress level and I didn't even realize that I was there. That is a really big thing. Yeah, Donna was sharing. So as she's brought in her hour visualizations or meditation, right? Her anxiety has gone from a 10 down to a 1 to a 2. So it is that powerful, you guys. So where can you get some meditation into your day? And I don't care if it's just 10 minutes, at least start somewhere. I think the more and more you experience the power of connecting with yourself, okay, of connecting with nothing, the more and more it's going to reiterate and it becomes its own reward. So I'll bet, like Donna, who's doing this hour every day, I bet, Donna, like, you don't want to miss a day, because you know how powerful it is, how good you feel when you actually do that. So I encourage everybody to go ahead and get in. If you guys have questions on any of that, go ahead and drop them in the chat box, and I will take a look at that. But I did say today, and we've only got a few minutes here, but I want to talk a little bit about skin today because this is a topic that comes up, and there's a couple things that I want you to really know and understand when it comes to your skin, right? So I know people have concerns. They get eczema or acne. They're worried about aging skin and wrinkles or lines. And some people have massive skincare routines. I have to be really honest. I don't really have a skincare routine personally. It is one of those areas that it is a place for me to up level, but it's not something I focus on in terms of outside, because a lot of what happens with our skin comes from the inside, right? And so when we detox, when we're eating good, nourishing foods, when we're not purposely, bringing toxicity into our body, when we're drinking clean water, when we're breathing clean air, when we're eating good food, that allows our bodies, right, to really detox from the inside so that the skin can still be really good and clean and clear. And one of the first places I like to look when there are different skin issues going on is that gut, right? Is that GI system. Because when your gut is out of balance, your skin is going to have issues. And so that's the first place you want to look. Check in on, where is my diet? Is there something that my body is reactive to? Am I having high stress? Do I need to bring down those cortisol levels? That's another place. And then I know we're moving out of summer, but the big thing that people worry about in summer, and Chris and I have talked about this at a prior Lunch and Learn, so you can find some of our prior Lunch and Learns and you'll find more content on this. But, sunscreen and all of that people worry about. So number one, when it comes to that sunscreen, you got to make sure that you're using something that's really clean, really pure, that's not damaging your skin. It's a little crazy, right? It's a little nutty. I'm putting something with toxins on my skin to prevent my skin from getting cancer. So it's like we're preventing and causing both simultaneously. And we have to stop to think to see if that makes sense. So you want to be really careful what goes on your skin. You guys, anything that you put on your skin gets absorbed into your body. Okay, think about that. Think about like progesterone cream is used sometimes to help balance hormones. It's just cream that's put on your skin. Well, why is it effective? It's effective because it gets absorbed through your skin. So anything that you put on your body gets absorbed. Okay, and your skin itself has its own biome, right? So y'all know the microbiome of the gut. Well, your skin also has its own microbiome. So I know a lot of people, they got the hand sanitizer and they're using those hand sanitizing chemicals on their hands all the time. Well, that disrupts your skin's natural barriers. So something to be aware of. If you order from Premier Research Labs, you have an account with us, then the limonene oil is what I like to use as my hand sanitizer. So that's LIMONENE. And that's what I use as my hand sanitizer so that I'm not disrupting my own microbial balance of my skin. If you don't have a Premier Research Labs account, you can go ahead and send us a direct message or email us or leave a comment, and we'll help you get set up with an account so you can order the limonene oil. But that is really an important one that I use in my day-to-day. But the truth is, you guys, the more you take in, and there's great scientific research on this. So if you're taking in a lot of those good antioxidants, right? Your vitamin C, your vitamin E, your vitamin A, you're eating good whole foods, your berries, your greens, all of those things. The more of that you eat, the less susceptible your skin is to sunburn. So now I'm not saying go stand out at the high new sun on the beach, with nothing on for several hours and thinking you're going to come out unscathed. That's not the case, right? We haven't conditioned our bodies that way. So we will burn, right? But the more of that antioxidant nutrition that you have, the better your skin actually upholds when you're, say, in that environment of the sun so that you're not actually getting sunburn. So that's a really important thing. And of course, the other thing, you guys, for your skin is hydration. Hydration, hydration, hydration. And it doesn't have to be just plain water. You can bring in herbal teas that you love. I mean, I'm drinking a delicious herbal tea right now. It's got cinnamon, it's got ginger, it's got cardamom, it's got some wonderful spices that are just delicious, right? Delicious to say the least. So I'm hydrating, I'm getting in the nourishment because, the ginger and the cinnamon, all of those things are really powerful for your health as well. So you don't have to drink plain water if you don't like plain water. You can also, put cucumbers or strawberries or blueberries or some other fruit into your water to make it also more appealing for you. And I will say, I want to talk about, one other thing that I think is really important, especially when it comes from hydration, because this came up with one of our clients. You guys, some people will drink a ton, right? And they're like, I'm drinking so much, but I'm always so thirsty. And you can actually overdrink and create dehydration. Okay. You can overdrink and create that dehydration. So that what happens is when we are overhydrating, we actually lose minerals from our system. And we need those minerals to actually keep ourselves hydrated. And, for all other things in our health, we need minerals. It's one of the biggest weaknesses that we have in our culture when it comes to our health, is that those missing nutrients. But what'll happen, and again, like I said, this came up with a client this week. They're drinking, right? But their minerals are going out the door. So especially in terms of summer, or if you are working out a lot or things like that. And I'll tell you, I don't use processed food in my diet or things like that. So there really isn't salt in my diet. Okay. And bad salt is bad, right? But good salt is good. So we do need some good salt. So I use the Premier Research Labs. They have the pink salt, and I will put that. So this morning when I did my workout, I put a pinch of the Premier Research Labs pink salt in my water. After my workout, I put another pinch of the pink salt in my water, so that I'm holding up minerals and really sustaining that mineralization in my body. And I will tell you, exciting. We haven't announced it anywhere yet, but Premier Research Labs just released a new salt. It's called, it's the Premier Research Labs Pink Salt Complete. So it's actually got food-based vitamins in the pink salt. Actually, do I have? I do. Yeah, it's got the food-based vitamins in there. So it's got an organic plant matrix blend, okay, that contains different vitamins. So let's see, there's 17 different foods and botanicals, all organically and sustainably grown. Let's see. So it's got like moringa leaf, amla berry, holy basil, green tea leaves, natural sources of vitamin D from shiitake and oyster mushrooms. It's got all of these wonderful things: zinc, selenium, over 39 trace minerals, vitamin D, vitamin K, vitamin B. It's got all of these things in the pink salt. It tastes like Premier's regular pink salt, but it has this added bonus. So you can bet, where I struggle making sure my kids have everything, I want to make sure that is the salt that, that we're going to be using on a regular basis. So we get the regular benefit of the Premier Research Labs pink salt, but now there's this additional nutritional benefit as well. So that's if you have an account with us, that's the Premier Research Labs Pink Salt Complete that I think it just released last week. So it is out there, and definitely one that you wanna check out. And it still has that pink salt taste, which if you haven't tried it, it's amazing. The pink salt has a wonderful, delicious taste. And if you don't have a Premier Research Labs account, but you want these things, then just put a message in the chat box, or go ahead and direct message us, or send us an email. Send me an email, Danielle@southbaywellness.com. We'll get you set up. Maybe what I'll do is I'll put the code and the link for creating an account in this chat box later on once we are complete. Let's see. If there's any other questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat box because we are a couple minutes over, but I want to make sure I get everybody's questions answered. So Jen, the name of the oil that I use for the hand sanitizer oil, it's called limonene oil, Limone oil. And when you go into Premier Research Labs, just type it in the search function and you'll find it. I mean, they're small little bottles, but they last forever because you only need like a drop, just to get that going and get those hands all cleaned up and cleared up. I also use it, Jen, just so you know too, and everybody else. I take it with me, especially when I'm traveling. So, if I grab a piece of fruit, I grab an apple from the store or something like that, and I want to make sure that apple gets washed before I eat it, and I don't have, facilities or things like that, I will use the limonene oil on that as well. So I don't just use it for disinfecting my hands, but I will use it for disinfecting other foods and things like that as well. Plus, for those of you who take the D3 serum drops, the limonene oil is you're using it, right? Because it emulsifies the vitamin D. That means, vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. And as we emulsify it, we actually make it much easier for the body to absorb, because when we've got, congestion at the liver, the gallbladder, all of that, we're not getting in the nutrients that we're supposed to get in with those fat soluble vitamins. So by getting that emulsification in there, by using the limonene oil, we actually get direct delivery. So that's really important. So if your vitamin D levels are low, if you're with us, you're either taking the vitamin D3 K2 because it has the K2 component, or you're taking the D3 and you want to take that with the limonene oil. That way you get that emulsification in and you get that delivery. You're welcome, Jen. All right, everyone, we are past the top of the hour, but it's all good here. It was a pleasure seeing you guys. Let me see, what are we going to talk about next week? So next week, we are going to talk about our transition from summer to fall. So we'll talk about, lifestyle changes, the season changes. We'll talk about, skincare changes. We'll talk about adjustments to your diet and your nutrition, all of those important things that we want to be aware of to get ourselves ready for the fall. So that is our topic. Carissa will be here with me next week. Like I said, I'm hoping that she's sleeping because it looks like her flight did not land until 5 a.m. this morning. And I left her at the airport yesterday at 2 p.m. So she had a heck of an evening. So, all right, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good night, or a good day anyway, and a good week because it is just Monday. Take care, everyone. Bye.